Let's start tonight with some good news coming out of Bujumbura following the visit of the UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon. Burundi President Pierre Nkurunziza has agreed to hold peace talks that are hoped to put an end to violence in the country. This is after he met with UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon, who touched down in the country on Monday. 400 people have died in a civil conflict that broke out after the head of state announced his re-election bid in 2015.
Burundi is set to give peace talks another go, with the goal of putting an end to a cycle of violence that started after President Pierre Nkurunziza announced his third-term bid in April last year and hasn't stopped since. The Burundian president arrived at the decision after meeting United Nations Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon, who touched down in Bujumbura on Monday in an attempt to end the bloodshed over President Pierre Nkurunziza's clinch to power.
My invitation last evening, representatives of the political actors from both the government ruling party and opposition party sat down together to discuss the future of the country. Nothing prevents from continuing on this course. I was very much encouraged that the political leaders, whether they are sitting in government ruling party or opposition, they promised that they will engage in inclusive dialogue. This is what President Nkurunziza also confirmed, that he will be engaging in inclusive dialogue.
We have asked for their assistance when it comes to initiating talks to reconcile Burundians. Everyone knows that Burundians always come together when it comes to talks. We have shown our commitment with announcement of free 2,000 prisoners, excluding those accused of disturbing the peace.
The head of state also touched on his row with Rwanda, saying he has called on the UN to make an intervention. He also agreed to free prisoners and lift arrest warrants.
We spoke about other issues facing the region, especially Rwanda, which is a country that has been causing us problems. We have asked for their support to help us and regarding Rwanda to stop provoking us.
In the past, the Burundian government's attempts to engage in dialogue have fallen through the cracks due to the involvement of persons said to have masterminded a failed coup in May last year. Bloodshed manifested in spite of the top diplomat's arrival. Deputy police spokesperson Moise Nkurunziza said one person had died and another had been wounded in a grenade attack at the Bujumbura market on Monday morning. No group claimed responsibility for the attack, but the government says there are 3 rebel outfits fomenting violence, including 2 made up of renegade soldiers. The opposition accuses government troops of arbitrary arrests, disappearances and extrajudicial killings. More than 400 people have been killed since April, when Nkurunziza said he would run for a 3rd term, a move opponents dismissed as unconstitutional and sought to prevent by staging street protests. Nkurunziza's decision, however, may put an end to sectarian violence in East Africa's smallest country once and for all. Trix Ingado, KTN News.
Former Uganda's head of intelligence, General David Sejusa, has been remanded back to Luzira prison after the court-martial declined his bail application. The chairman of the court-martial, Major General Levi Karuhanga, ruled that the sureties that were presented were not substantial since they were not from military officers, more so of his rank as a general. The 4-star general returns to court on the 11th of March when the hearing kicks off. Solomon Serwanja reports.
He arrived with hopes that he would not return to the dungeons of Luzira prison, where he has been locked up since February 2nd. General David Sejusa returned to the court-martial to receive the verdict on his bail application amidst a full courtroom. It was not good news though, as the chairman of the court, Major General Levi Karuhanga, pronounced his ruling denying the 4-star general bail. Court ruled that the sureties that were presented to back Sejusa, including Kampala Lord Mayor Elias Lukwago and the one Dr. Deo Chizaluchamzi, a surgeon with Case Hospital, were not substantial since none of them were military officers. Court emphasized that at least one of the sureties was supposed to be a general of equal ranking with that of General David Sejusa.
An erroneous, I don't want to get into the details so much, but that was erroneous because how many serving 4-star generals are there? It is General Katumba Amara, General A. Tumwine, and General Keihura. Those are the 3. Now, if the rule says you need 2 substantial sureties, do you see the UPDF which sued General Sejusa, which filed these charges? Like, for example, General Katumba Amara to come and stand surety. Do you see General Keihura coming to stand surety for him? So who is left? General Tumwine?
The chairman of the court-martial, Levi Karuhanga, also ruled that the social and military status of General Sejusa in the public spectrum could interfere with the evidence and the investigations into the case. The Machindia-based military court also denied the dissident general bail on grounds that his history, characterized by absconding from duty, a charge that he also faces, court was not sure that he could return to court or flee the country. During the court proceedings, General Sejusa requested that he makes a submission before the court. He was, however, blocked by the chairman of the court-martial.
You have to understand that sometimes courts operate under stringent conditions. Ordinarily, they would have allowed him to address court, but also court has discretion to say, can he address us through your lawyer? But I think he had something which he wanted to say, and they blocked him that way. But whatever he had to say will come out soon.
Court then remanded the embattled general back to Luzira prison until the 11th of March, when the hearing of the case is expected to start.
Our client has given us instructions to appeal against this ruling to the General Court-Martial Court of Appeals. So that is our next step.
The charges against General David Sejusa include participating in political party activities, insubordination, and being away from duty without official leave. Sejusa's lawyers also revealed that they are following a case in the High Court, seeking a ruling on whether General Sejusa is still a serving military officer. Now, many still think that General David Sejusa's case is a political rather than a military trial. Even though the Court of Appeal has denied him bail, his lawyers insist that they will challenge this ruling in the General Court of Appeal. But until then, the 4-star general can command no more because he will be in the coolers. Solomon Serwanja, KTN News, Kampala, Uganda.
Uganda opposition leader Dr. Kizza Besigye continued with his run-ins with the police, who blocked him from accessing the Electoral Commission offices, where he intended to lodge an official complaint against the results of the just concluded election. And yes, he was arrested again for the 5th time in a week and later confined at an unknown location. Here is NBS reporter Moses Walugembe with the rest of the details.
Heavily armed police officers intercepted Forum for Democratic Change presidential flag bearer in the just concluded elections, Dr. Kizza Besigye, at a roadblock a few meters away from his residence in Kasangati, Wakiso district. Police officers then forced him out of his car and walked him into a waiting police van and drove away. The van carrying Besigye was driven off first through various villages near Kasangati as journalists followed. Moments later, journalists were blocked by a police patrol vehicle, preventing them from following the police van. The van transporting Besigye vanished, and it was not known where the 4-time presidential candidate was detained throughout the day. It has now become a cat-and-mouse game involving constant police pursuit of Dr. Kizza Besigye. For now, it remains to be seen when the heavy police deployment will leave Dr. Kizza Besigye's residence. Besigye says he wants to head to the Electoral Commission offices to pick official presidential election declaration forms of a poll conducted last week, which he dismissed as a sham. The results released by the commission show that Dr. Kizza Besigye finished second with 35.61%. Police says the four-time presidential candidate plans to cause chaos in the city, the reason they insist on preventing him.
The most important thing is that he's safe and he's being held. We want to dissuade him from his continuing to defy the law. Yes, he must comply. This nonsense of saying he will defy the law, as though there is no state in this country, as though there is no constitution.
Moses Walgembe, KTN News, Kampala, Uganda.
Back here in Kenya, it's more drama. President Uhuru Kenyatta has, in just over 24 hours, reversed his own decision not to appoint a tribunal to investigate a Supreme Court judge at the center of a 200 million shillings bribery scandal. The president has now suspended Justice Philip Tunoi and appointed a tribunal to investigate the corruption allegations against him. Uhuru, who just yesterday cited an ongoing case on Justice Tunoi's retirement age for his refusal to appoint a tribunal, now says he arrived at his new decision after further consultations.
A flip-flopping president. Just a day after he declined to appoint a tribunal to investigate bribery allegations against Supreme Court Judge Justice Philip Tunoi, President Uhuru Kenyatta made an abrupt about turn, suspending Justice Tunoi and appointing a 7-member tribunal to investigate him. The tribunal will be chaired by Judges and Magistrates Vetting Board Chairman Sharad Rao. Judge Roslyn Korir, retired Justice Jonathan Havelock, Judith Gusera, James Kaberere, Abdirashid Abdullahi and George Munji are members of the tribunal. In a statement, Uhuru says he suspended Justice Tunoi and appointed a tribunal after further consultations and review of the relevant provisions of the Constitution and given the strict timelines for setting up of a tribunal for the investigation of a judge. His new decision just in time to beat the 14-day deadline set by the law for him to suspend Justice Tunoi and appoint a tribunal. In his earlier decision declining to appoint a tribunal as recommended by the Judicial Service Commission, a letter from State House to Chief Justice Dr. Willy Mutunga cited an ongoing case on Justice Tunoi's retirement age. The High Court ruled that judges should retire at the age of 70 as stipulated by the new constitution. But 72-year-old Justice Tunoi moved to the Court of Appeal on the basis that he was appointed under the old constitution, which set the retirement age at 74 years. The president, in his refusal to set up a tribunal, said doing so while the appeal is pending would create a constitutional crisis. Now he says he believes the concerns about the retirement age for judges may be addressed by the tribunal itself, which may independently consider the merit, if any, of such concerns should they be raised before it. Analysts say by refusing to appoint a tribunal, Uhuru would have created the constitutional crisis he was trying to avoid in the first place.
The constitution does not anticipate any circumstances or any situations where once the Judicial Service Commission has made a recommendation that a tribunal be formed, that the same can be declined or the president can give a different view about it. So what we have here now is a situation where we are in untested waters. The president has a different opinion from the JSC. What next? A stalemate. What is that stalemate? A constitutional crisis.
The president has done what the law expected him to do, beating the 14-day deadline to do so by only a few hours. And attention will now shift to the tribunal as Justice Tunoi, who has insisted on facing a tribunal, begins the battle to clear his name of allegations that he received 200 million shillings from Nairobi Governor Dr. Evans Kidero to rule in his favor in an election petition filed by Ferdinand Waititu. Rita Tinina, KTN News.